What's up everyone? Hope you're having an awesome day. Today I've got the New Balance Fuel Cell Rebel V2 in my hands and we're going to be talking about my progressive thoughts now that I've had a chance to put 50Ks into them. Let's get into it. If you get anything out of this video, please show the channel some support and hit the thumbs up button. Comment down below if you've got any questions or comments in general. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe, hit the bell notification as well so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. And if you've got Instagram, head on over there and check out my page, 3 Kicks a Day. It's just like this channel and all about shoes. So I haven't posted a lot of content over the last week, and that's because I haven't really been feeling that well. I don't tell you that for sympathy, but there is a link to this shoe right here. And that link is that I took a few days off running. I'm getting to my point, I promise. The first shoe that I ran in after I took those few days off was the Rebel V2. And on that run, I hadn't planned to go for very long, let alone get close to the 50Ks that I needed to post some progressive thoughts, and so I didn't even take my GoPro with me. I started running though, and I ended up clocking in 11Ks, and it felt really good. Now, that could be partly due to the fresh legs, but in large part, it was just because the Fuel Cell Rebel V2 is such a fun shoe to run in. Now, I totally appreciate that it's really easy for me to say that. It's a fun shoe to run in. And your questions would be, why is it a fun shoe to run in? And I suppose if I was to summarize it, I think where the Rebel V2 really sets itself apart from other runners and other lightweight running shoes is that it struck this perfect balance between being lightweight, well cushioned, but really responsive at the same time. And so it doesn't feel like it is one of those lightweight shoes that's pigeonholed into being a sub 10K tempo day shoe. You're probably getting a vibe that I really love this running shoe, and you're right, I really do love this running shoe. But having said that, I don't think it's a running shoe for everyone. We'll get into some of those thoughts in a minute. But before we get into those thoughts, let's talk about the stats of this guy. And what we've got is a lightweight engineered mesh upper sitting on top of New Balance's Fuel Cell foam. It's got 26 mil of stack in the heel, 20 mil of stack in the forefoot, giving us a 6 mil drop. It fits true to size and comes in at 7.3 ounces or 207 grams for a US men's size 9. If you're interested, my US men's 13 comes in at 253 grams or 8.9 ounces. One thing I do want to get out of the way with this shoe here is that the Rebel V2 is a lightweight running shoe. It's constructed as such and it really behaves like one. It prefers to go faster. But there are some elements here that really lend itself well to being a more versatile running shoe than the typical lightweight running shoes that you're used to. Well, that I'm used to anyway. With this guy in particular, the Rebel V2, you've got an upper that is really thin. And while it's super comfortable and breathable and lovely to run in, there are some downsides to running in cooler or more wet conditions. There are some translucent parts to the upper, and one of the comments I made in the initial impressions review was that this was more prone to letting in moisture than a typical mesh upper would be. And I found that to be absolutely the case, and something to keep in mind if you're planning on running in some wintry conditions. I was able to sort of get around this by not running on trails in this shoe, and I think that's the right move in any case. It's not a shoe that is built for going on any sort of rough terrain, and I think if you were planning on doing that, you would end up wearing this shoe down pretty quickly. If you are likely to be running over some grassed areas and things like that, I don't know, like at a football oval or something like that, you will find that if it's a wet day or if there's been some excessive rain the night before and that grass is damp, your socks are going to get pretty wet pretty quickly. So it's just something to keep in mind. For summery conditions and just for general wear, I found the upper to be a really good, breathable, comfortable material to have on your feet. The outsole has performed really well during my time with it. I feel like at the moment I'm really able to test the outsole's traction on my running shoes just because of the conditions here where I live. Most mornings are damp if they're not wet, so traction is something that really can't let me down, and the endurance rubber that New Balance have put here has worked exceptionally well. I can't really comment on durability at this point and how long the outsole would last, but while most of the outsole still looks like it's in good condition, there are a couple of areas that are showing a little bit more wear than what I would like to see at such a small amount of mileage or kilometerage. In any case, I think we'll see how that wear goes over the next 50Ks to really get a good gauge on how long this outsole will last. But at the moment, I think it's pretty consistent with what I would expect to see from a lightweight running shoe. Now let's talk about the midsole. I've saved this part for last because it is where I think New Balance have struck gold in the Rebel V2 and explains why it's so hyped. Fuel cell as a midsole compound, I've found at least, to be wildly unpredictable. You don't really get the same feeling on any single shoe. New Balance tweak it very differently for their different running shoes. I've run in the Propel V2, which I found to be quite firm. The Prism, which I found softer, but gave a very similar ride to the Propel V2 with an added element of stability. And then I'd also run in the Fuel Cell TC, which was super soft, but then had a carbon plate to really help responsiveness. This shoe, the Rebel V2, seems to take all of those concepts and put them into one package. It keeps the stack height relatively low, so you maintain a close to the ground feel, but doesn't sacrifice cushioning or responsiveness. And that's what I've loved the most about running in this Rebel V2. Talking about my latest run where I came off a few days off and not feeling well, I really just got out there and ran by feel. The shoe really helped guide my run. While I had anticipated to go for a slow, short run, the shoe just felt like it was urging me to go, and it really felt comfortable to continue running. I didn't feel any sort of fatigue in my foot, and that is what I love about different running shoes. When they have a personality that then helps guide your run, instead of feeling like you need to drive the shoe itself. Now, I did touch on it a little bit earlier, but where I think the Rebel V2 really separates itself from other lightweight running shoes is in its versatility. It can handle your typical tempo duties that you would expect a lightweight running shoe to excel in, but then builds on that by letting you go a little bit further without being penalized from a comfort perspective, both in slowing down the pace and also breaking past that 10, 12, 14, 15 kilometer barrier. This is where I think the shoe shines. It does give you options, but I did say that I don't think it's for everyone, and these are my thoughts as to why I wouldn't necessarily recommend the Rebel V2 to everyone. At its core, it is still a lightweight running shoe. While the Rebel V2 can handle some slower paces and over some longer distances, it still shines at those faster paces. And if you were doing those sort of slower, longer runs day in, day out, your foot might get fatigued in this shoe. I can't say that for sure, but I do know that I enjoy this shoe so much because I'm able to throw it into a rotation that includes different running shoes. Some max cushioned and daily training type of shoes that can handle those slower distances, so that when I do get to this shoe, I'm able to throw in a variety of different paces. If you do have another pair of running shoes that can handle the slower and longer paces, this makes an excellent companion to that shoe. The benefit with having a shoe like this as part of your rotation is that it will help push you to do those harder, faster runs. And where you anticipate on doing those runs, but then reality doesn't quite live up to your expectations, you're not going to be penalized for dialing the pace back down again. So far, I am really enjoying my time in the Rebel V2. It's one that absolutely is staying in the rotation and will stay quite high up in my choice of running shoes. I am really interested to hear your thoughts. Are you running in the Rebel V2 or are you still considering it? If you've got any experiences that you want to share, leave those in the comments below. If you've got any questions or topics that I may not have covered in this video, then leave those questions down there as well. But until the next video, laters.